emanating pure love, we all collectively are emanating pure love. When we're emanating pure love as a collective, we change humanity because we are the 100th monkey. We make the difference. Now people start acting like they got sense and nobody had to sit down in the classroom and tell them about it. They just start doing it because it's a tone. It's a feeling that's in the atmosphere that's been transferred to people globally. Now people are operating out of this, the highest truth, and not out of this, the lowest form of evolution. So I think we got through enough of it that we can move on to the next part, because we're going to have to revisit all this again anyway. It's not a one-time discussion. So it's just kind of setting the stage. So before I end, were there any last minute questions or inputs?
All I have to say is I've got a small synopsis, and that is agape love is what makes pure love in existence. That's what I see. So that's it. Agape love makes pure love all it can be.
Well, so elements of what you said is just accurate. So if I were to say anything, I would say this is what agape really is.
Pure love.
It's really pure love. And all of these different levels of awarenesses that we've been discussing here lead to that, which equals this. Because you're going to hear the term agape, and it's not the same. We don't use it the same as in religion.
Mm-hmm.
Two different concepts. So really, he describes it that way because he's talking to people that came out of Christianity. All right? So pure love is what we're really talking about. If you want to try to explain it to somebody that's a Christian, you would frame it as agape, but you would help them understand the proper definition of agape versus the one that's been given.
And I'm saying that over here, agape would be, being loyal and respected to myself. Where I don't get that loyalty and respect to myself over here.
That's true. That's a true statement.
So agape, in my new understanding is, yes, I am doing things for you, but at the same time, I am expressing agape love toward myself because I'm involved in the equation and not just you.
Oh, definitely. You can't be, definitely. You can't be pure.
But sometimes I'm not involved over here. I'm just obligated, not really wanting to do it. Or because you maybe meet one of these commonalities you talked about. It's just all been something over here. If I'm over here in this quadrant, well, I am operating in a type of agape love that is really focused on external environment solely, rather than thinking about myself and is this something really that I want to do.
But you can also be just thinking about yourself over here and not thinking about the other person that you maybe should be concerned about. That goes to selfishness, which is different than self-love.
So it's a combination of two things. So what you said is true and what you said is true.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we want to graduate to pure love.
Yes.
Because this is not an accurate definition of this. Okay.
So I have functioned, I'll make it short, pretty much out of service. And I guess this is kind of a need help just to get me attuned to
Service to whom?
To others.
Okay. I want to clarify that.
That's right. Help me get it clear because I want to kind of get myself anchored on, okay, this is where you kind of took the road to the left. And maybe I've worked with people for maybe 15, 20 years, traveled X number of miles to other states to be with them because maybe they lost a loved one. And I said, oh, wow, I've worked with this person all these years, I'm going to go. And my idea was to bring joy or some support. And I may have been the only one from the workplace or from the area because they live in another state. And to this date, maybe it never got acknowledged. I felt something about that.
Mm-hmm.
There have been people maybe I've given service to, but I didn't set up those parameters or boundaries, for something like that. what boundaries would I take other than it was something I wanted to do. But obviously, if I felt something, it wasn't my authentic self that really gave the service. Is that right?
Well, and from the standpoint of you hadn't identified what your expectation was of those people for you doing whatever you did.
No, I mean, it was a death that, I traveled this distance, did these things, but my idea was, I want to go because no one from Houston will be there, and we've worked together for maybe 20 years, and this is her mother, and I was excited about it. But to not get acknowledged, it was good to see you, thank you for coming.
Stop. Right there.
There you
That's
go.
what your expectation was.
Yes.
Acknowledgement.
Mhm.
So you were
that
expecting.
meant I wasn't functioning from my authentic self. Is that
I
how
mean-
I look at that?
I mean, you can say because first you have to be real. You have to be real with yourself about that's what you wanted, but there was no guarantee you were gonna get that, and obviously you didn't get it.
Right.
Now I don't know how well that would have went over if you told that person, I expect you to acknowledge me if I come.
No. So,
I know. I'm not making light of it. I'm just thinking this out of my head. I don't know how that scenario goes with that. This is what I would say to that in terms of being in a situation like that myself. And I use my own life story.
See, I just want to see my own self, so I don't make these kind of errors continuously. So obviously, I went into it with the wrong type of thinking,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, I would say
I
that
can
you
make
went
the
into
right-
it. You went into it. Did you already know when you went into it that you wanted acknowledgement?
No, I really wasn't thinking about that, but I thought it would kind of, I don't
This
know.
was-
So let's start.
I would think.
Let's start. So the first thing you do, you want to give with awareness. Give with awareness. If you know that you are expecting acknowledgement, and that if you don't get acknowledgement, that's going to be an issue for you, then you have a decision to make. Either you're going to carry through with it with the understanding that you may or may not get acknowledged for it, or you're not going to go because you know that you may or may not get acknowledged for it.
See, but I wasn't thinking that way.
I mean, well, you can't think somewhere you didn't know to think.
I mean,
I'm saying, that's just going
I'm
forward.
going to go, well, okay.
Yeah, it's just about going forward, coming up with a way to, and the reason why, because the greatest source of explanation for any of this is going to always be myself, right? Because I lived it. I ain't do that, but the concept is the same. Not the exact situation is the same.
Gotcha.
I've been dealing with being my mother's caretaker for all of my life, from a kid to now. I'm not in one way or another. And I've always did it because I love it. But what was mixed in with that was this, which led to resentment. Not towards her, but towards the situation. Because I didn't feel like I could give myself a break without feeling guilty, like I wasn't being a good, dutiful son. It wasn't that I didn't like doing for my mother, and that I don't enjoy doing for my mother. In fact, I'm going to see my mother when I leave here. But I'm saying all that to say that until I became aware of this, acknowledged that, dealt with the guilt that I would feel for doing something for myself and not feeling like I had to always just be there. And if I'm not there, somehow the world ain't right. Well, I didn't have anything to do with my mother's condition. I didn't create it. It ain't necessarily her fault. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a life too. And I had to learn to live my life. So now when I give out of this. And this doesn't exist. You know what I mean? So I'm saying as you become aware, you start to give out of this because you are aware why you giving, and you ain't looking, or you're not looking for, or you understand that you may not get. My mother could never reciprocate back to me what I do. Ever. It's impossible. It's impossible. So for me to expect that from her would be unrealistic. Doesn't mean I don't want acknowledgement or appreciation. I just know that she's not going to give it to me in that way because she don't have the capacity to. But that's an awareness, and so it's like, that's now, because I've never really talked about that because that's a very personal thing. But to be able to get to the highest level of self, you gotta be truthful with who you are to you so that you know why you do what you do and be okay with what you do or don't do or what other people gonna do or don't do. And if you know you're not gonna be okay with it, don't do it.
And there are people who will appreciate you and acknowledge you, but not to you. They will do it to other people. They'll go tell people how wonderful you are, and they never tell you what they think.
That's true too.
So it's kind of like sometimes you can't stand in that judgment because you really don't know. Just some people prefer to tell other people how great you are
That's it.
and
I
what
mean,
you did.
Some things you're not gonna ever know all the. I think the first thing and the most important thing is being aware
Yeah.
of what's going on with you, because everything you said is absolutely true, and that's true of everything. As a teacher, and teachers never know the long-term impact they have on students. That may not come into fruition. It may be one student 20 years from now that comes back to tell them how everything they've done was based on something that teacher said to them that stuck and became something that they built their whole honor system on or something. You don't know that. All you know as a teacher is like, man, I'm not getting through these thick-headed kids. Or I'm not getting through these thick-headed people. Whatever it might be, nobody don't seem to get it. Why am I doing it? Doing it at some point in time for you has to become your own reward, but you have to have rewarded yourself so that you don't feel so depleted that when you do that, you feel depleted. Because when you feel drained from giving, that's not good. That's not good. When I give, I don't feel drained, I feel energized. That's because I'm taking out time to do for me. Because if I'm not doing for me, I can't look for that situation to do it for me. Because it ain't designed for that. It is not designed for that. If I'm looking for the situation with my mom to invigorate me, that is not going to happen. It is not. The dynamics in that situation does not lend itself to that whatsoever. So I got to get that from somewhere else. So that when I go into that, I know that I'm just doing it for this. And I'm not doing it out of this, and I'm not doing it out the mental reciprocation or none of that. Because it's just not going to happen in that situation. It's just not. That situation cannot give that to me. But thank you guys for sharing and giving your input because these are the kind of things that people gonna want to know because they're thinking about it too, and it's like them not being here, they can't ask. So the more you ask stuff, it kind of flushes things out because when you're listening to me talk, you listen to a train of thought. Well, that train of thought may make sense to you, well, because I'm the one explaining it. But somebody else that's listening, that train of thought, there may be gaps in it for them, and I'm not gonna be able to pick up on everything that a person could potentially ask. So it's good to get questions so that we can kind of give a broader perspective to all of what we're discussing. But when we leave out here and wrap up again, I'm going to wrap it up one more time so we can walk off with the salient points. The social fantasy has given us these definitions of love. They don't equal pure love or agape. They call a lot of these two things, they link to agape for sure. Not necessarily this one.
That's right.
But these two down here get mapped into that. Flawed. So it's really this: conscious love, positive awareness, service. Service to others in the sense that because you've already made sure that you met your needs so that you are in a position to give service to others and not feel like you're lacking. And then awareness of self and company of the highest truth. Those things all together lead to this, which equals pure love. And if you're explaining it to somebody that's a Christian that doesn't understand pure love, you can say that that's what agape love really is. That is what it really is. It's pure love, and pure love comes out of this. Doesn't come out of this. Doesn't come out of this. Obligations that are over here were those are self-directed obligations that you gave yourself. They're not coming out of the society telling you have some attachment of obligation because of the roles and definitions and positions that you've been placed in. And definitely you're not bound by this. You're obligated to give the best of yourself to all of humanity, not just a select group.
Thank you, disciple. That was
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. I was applauding.
Yeah.